My name is Tadius Munyimani from the Gays and Lesbians of Zimbabwe Girls.
Casper Pound from Family Aid Support Organization, FASO.
I'm Tracy Jean-Pierre with an organization called Red Pig.
I'm Bradley from Botswana.
My name is Rodney Chalera and I'm from Malawi.
My name is Sipokazi Nombande. I work for an organization called FEW, Forum for the Empowerment of Women.
My name is Robert Hamlin. I volunteer with the organization SWEAT with sex workers.
Hi everyone, it's Tino again from ECLA. Basically our group was dealing with international and regional spaces in which we can interact or push forward soggy issues and methods or ways that we can actually do that. And we came up with a whole bunch of them. A lot of them were focused around HIV and AIDS, and the main point was to then make our presence be felt and to utilize international mechanisms. So for example, we covered international judicial mechanisms like the African Commission on Human People's Rights, the UN Universal Periodic Review, and the point was to make our presence felt in these spaces, to actually interact and participate in those spaces. And if there are organizations that are already there, so for example, how CAL is there in the African Commission for Human People's Rights, to actually make use of those organizations that are there and utilize their presence to carry forward the issues that are there in our own countries and in our own spaces. And yeah, that's it.
In Zimbabwe, I was in the group that was discussing about IDAHOT, and three most important things we came up with. Number one, it is important to use IDAHOT to engage with policymakers. It is also important to engage families in terms of acceptance, as well as build alliances with other organizations that would have shown sympathy to us. And as part of the challenges that we came up with as an organization, or as a group rather, we realized that most of the spaces in which we are using IDAHOT, they are restricted to the public. Therefore, there isn't much visibility, or there is no build up or the hype of the people to come for the event, and it's limited to a certain few individuals, which we thought is not making an impact enough to meet the objectives of IDAHOT itself. So as a recommendation, we recommended that we at least try to find means of doing pre-IDAHOT activities that are cost effective, that are much lesser in terms of how much they cost, as well as probably engaging with the whole community by using the social media itself.
We were particularly concerned about the fact that women who have sex with women seem to be invisible within the healthcare access environment. We also looked at funding opportunities to ensure that the LGBTI healthcare access agenda remains current. And we also looked at how we can claim spaces at international and local conferences dealing with HIV and LGBTI issues.
Our governments will make declarations like the Abuja Declaration in respect of the 15% that the government said they will give towards health, and that was that in most governments across the continent. So it is a challenge for people living with HIV to access, because the commitment has been made on paper, but practically it is not there. So it is our appeal as people living with HIV that as they make those commitments at the high-powered delegation or levels, they then practicalize it at country level for the benefit of their citizens. Our people are viewed differently, regardless of their status, but at constitutional level, they are viewed equally. So it's a challenge that we also appeal that governments or whoever is in authority should actually treat people equally, because there is no one who is above the law, as we are all created in the image of God. I think it's an opportunity again for us as a region. We are getting funding from well-wishers. At domestic level, we lack that. While we make advantage of organizations or funders who are bringing in support, I think at domestic level we need to do or start doing something so that at the end of the day, when they are not around, we will sustain this project that we do have. I think we need to continue doing that.
The international and regional bodies or regional forums provides us with opportunities where we can engage either with the heads of states or with the other people that come during such forums, where different issues are brought forward. So what we feel like as NGOs or as organizations that work on SOC issues is to take advantage of that and make sure that we make ourselves visible during such forums. And at the same time, there are other forums which require us to write reports, like the shadow report, on what actually is happening in our different countries. So what we want is to make sure that in such reports we capture issues that are affecting the sexual minorities like the LGBTI.
Okay, this afternoon in my group we were talking about the opportunities that exist in international events, on possibilities for human rights engagement, and we are talking about possible conferences, convenings, and so on and so forth. And some of the stuff that came out were around HIV/AIDS and how those spaces present opportunities for LGBTI activists and human rights defenders to go there and engage with government delegates, engage with others, and to engage with service providers to get them to be a little bit more human rights conscious. And then others were around human rights based approaches. The Human Rights Council, for instance, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. These are events that happen regularly and where LGBTI activists attend, and they can network with each other, learn from other people, engage the commissioners, engage the special rapporteurs, and go in coalitions and be able to support resolutions that advance rights for sexual minorities, sexual and gender minorities. So it is important that we know what is happening and where and how we can mobilize for people to attend and participate. I attended a session that talks about safer African cities. Sometimes if you stay in a small city, the risks are not too much, because if it's a small city, then people are more tolerant when it comes to LGBTI issues, whereas if you stay in a bigger city, then there's a whole lot of people, and also people don't, I don't want to say they don't understand, but you don't get time to actually engage with everyone versus a small city. Why did we move from where we originally from? And so we spoke about that. Some, they moved because better job opportunities. They moved because of love. In the city, there's more opportunities, you see. So in the city, you can be in your own corner, no one will know you, and you can also do your own thing. What else did we talk about? We spoke about the advantages, or what is positive about being in a city and in a small town. And then is that in a small town, I think I did mention this, they are more tolerant in a small town because obvious you know each other and stuff. And then what else? And also the fact that everyone knows each other, it makes it easier. And even if you have a problem, I mean, like, people knows you. And also we spoke about the places that we currently stay at. For example, some stay in standalone houses, and what are the challenges and the disadvantages of staying in a standalone house, which was if you stay in a standalone house, there's a challenge of break-in, house robbery and stuff, and that makes you not to feel safer. And some said they stay in an apartment, of which they felt more comfortable in an apartment because there's always security, there's always people around. And some stayed in townships, which was a high risk because they still have to take taxis to work, and also the name calling. We had one person who was not an LGBTI person, but she could
relate to the stories, because in her township, people will be calling these LGBTI people names, so she could relate to that. And so it makes the township not a safe space.
My name is Robert Hamlin. I volunteer with the organization Sweat with sex workers. The session that we just did, people were invited that wanted to talk about African feminism, or the word radical was used. I was very interested in that, because what also came out in the session is how does that, we spoke about first what is feminism, things came out like it's for women, but then what's nice is it was packed out that it's not just about these other intersections like LGBT. We then moved on to see what opportunities there are in everybody's calendars that they were conscious of, that we could push LGBT issues that were perhaps feminist issues, or push feminism, or events that were feminist events. A very strong thing that came through was the 16 Days of Activism, which we thought was just in South Africa, but it seems like other countries also have it, Zambia, Botswana. And so we had a discussion about what the campaign is about. It's 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence, but also the problems about it is that it's used in the wrong way by South African government, and that feminists are pushing back against that. Then we spoke about Johannesburg, People's Pride here in Johannesburg. There was talk about International Human Rights Days. There's sex worker marches on that day. Perhaps we could do stuff with that. I didn't remember the others.
To come up or create a social LGBTI calendar and a database with all major and minor LGBTI festivals and showcases.
Sorry, if you stay in a bigger city, then there's a whole lot of people, and also people don't, I don't want to say they don't understand, but you don't get time to actually engage with everyone versus a small city. We also looked at why did we move from where we originally from, and so we spoke about that. Some, they moved because better job opportunities, they moved because of love, they moved because what was the third thing? They moved because of, in the city there's more opportunities, you see. And also we spoke about and also if you stay in the city, there's that like I've said earlier on, that if you are from a small town, then it means everyone knows each other. So in the city, you can be in your own corner, no one will know you, and you can also do your own thing. What else did we talk about? We spoke about the advantages, or what is positive about being in a city and in a small town. And then is that in a small town, I think I did mention this, they are more tolerant in a small town because obvious, you know each other and stuff. And then what else? And also the fact that everyone knows each other, it makes it easier. And even if you have a problem, I mean, like people knows you. And also we spoke about the places that we currently stay at. For example, some stay in standalone houses, and what are the challenges and the disadvantages of staying in a standalone house, which was if you stay in a standalone house, there's a challenge of break-in, house robbery and stuff, and that makes you not to feel safer. And some said they stay in an apartment, of which they felt more comfortable in an apartment because there's always security, there's always people around. And some stayed in townships, which was a high risk because they still have to take taxis to work, and also the name calling. We had one person who was not an LGBTI person, but she could relate to the stories because in her township, people will be calling these LGBTI people names, so she could relate to that. And so it makes the township not a safe space.